If you've been paying attention to the job market and the economy over the last few months, then you know that companies like Amazon and UPS have been laying people off left and right. We're talking about thousands of people that wake up every single day only to find out that their careers, their jobs are no longer there. And some of these people have been working at these companies for 20 plus years. And if you currently are lucky enough to actually have a job, have a career, and you think that your position is safe, then you could be setting yourself up for financial ruin in the near future. So in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at some of the defensive things that you could be doing right now to help insulate yourself in case you're one of those casualties of this job market. And then we're also going to flip over and we're going to take a look at some of the things that you can do offensively to make sure that you can grow your wealth and continue to get to your financial destination. So the very first thing that we want to make sure that we're doing is we want to look at our cash flow. Cash flow is king, right? You've heard people saying that. And one of the biggest issues that most Americans face is that we have a cash flow issue. I believe that most people don't have an income problem. I think that most people have a spending problem. I know people that make $50,000 a year that live extremely comfortably. I know people that make that same amount of money and they live check to check and they're struggling. And I also know people on the other end of the spectrum that are in a similar boat. People that are making over $200,000 a year, living paycheck to paycheck, and one disaster away from losing everything. Their house, their car, everything that they've ever worked for is one job loss away. So just because someone is making a lot of money, it doesn't mean that they're doing what they're supposed to do. And I think that's something that we think about whenever we are working towards getting to where we think we want to be, and we see someone that is in that particular space. We think that they've got it made. Everything is falling into place for them, but we don't know behind the scenes that they are just one job loss or one issue away from losing everything. It's a house of cards. And in America, there's a lot of people that are basically living their life like a house of cards. And at any given moment, it can all fall down and everything falls by the wayside. So we need to make sure that we understand what our cash flow is. Those of you that have watched my videos in the past know that I always talk about budgeting, so much so that you're probably like, here he goes talking about budgeting again. But I have to do that. But that's how important budgeting is to our financial success. And if we don't have a solid budget in place, then we don't know what our cash flow looks like. So in order to make sure that we're insulating ourselves as much as possible against this current economy, against this current job market, we have to play some defense. And the very first thing that we want to do that's a defensive movement is understanding what our cash flow looks like and making sure that it is as high as it can possibly be. All right, so the very next thing that we're going to do, and this is also from a defensive perspective, is we are going to take a look at our emergency fund. So I often talk about emergency funds on my channel. I'm not a huge fan of emergency funds. I'd rather have most of my money in the market or in an investment actually working for me. However, if we are going to have an emergency fund, I often say that 3 months is kind of where I like to be at, but it also is going to depend on your risk tolerance. But if you're in an industry or a job or a career where things are a little bit shaky, AI may be right around the corner, there may be some questions on what's going on with your company or your organization, then I think that this would be the time to start beefing that up. So if you want to get that up to 6 months of an emergency fund to cover your monthly bills, that's probably going to be the target. Again, this is going to depend on your risk tolerance. This is going to also depend on whether or not you have any other investments that you could pull money from, any places where you're liquid. And then lastly, it's going to also be determined by the industry and the career that you're in. Unfortunately, technology has been coming up and it has been replacing a lot of the jobs that are currently out there. And there's a lot of people that believe that we're at the very beginning stages of this happening. So if that's the case, we want to be prepared, and we're going to take this additional defensive position, and we're building up our high yield savings account to a number that meets our risk tolerance. So the very next defensive position that we're going to take, so this is the third defensive position that we're going to be taking in this current job market and economy, is we're going to be evaluating what our career looks like. So if you're at an organization that is embracing AI, you need to also embrace AI. You need to embrace all of the technology and all the tools that your organization uses. So if you're a person that is a little bit resistant to change, now is not the time to be that person. You want to make sure that you are able to use all of the tools and the technology at a very high level that your organization has to offer. Because let's face it, these are the new skills that we need to learn. And the tools that each organization uses, they're all fairly substantially similar when it comes to like AI and other technology-based platforms. You want to make sure you're able to use those, because if you are laid off and you have an opportunity to go to another company that may use a similar technology platform, you want to make sure that you're proficient enough to where it's not going to be a problem for you to learn how to use those systems. Embrace new technology and make sure you embed that into your daily activities to stay sharp, to increase the tools in your tool belt, and it's going to make you more valuable to the company if you know how to use the technology that they're bringing in. I've worked at organizations in the past where the IT group spends millions of dollars on technology and a lot of it goes unused. Make sure you're taking advantage of that. And then the second piece of ensuring that you take this defensive position is you're going to update your resume. You want to make sure that it is updated with your latest achievements, your current role, and make sure everything is accurate. I know that oftentimes we get into our positions and our careers and we kind of just let that resume collect dust. Blow the dust off that resume, get it updated, and make sure that it's ready to go at any point in time, because anybody could be let go at any point in time. And oftentimes there may be signs, but there may not be enough signs for you to make sure that you have all of that stuff ready prior to that happening. Look, updating resumes nowadays is so simple. You could have it done in under 30 minutes. Pop it into AI like Gemini or something like that. Tell it what you want, and then it'll spit out an updated resume that reflects your current role and the current achievements that you have. Trust me, it only take you 30 to 60 minutes to get this done, but you really need to make sure that it's a priority. Guys, in today's job market, we have to be defensive. So we want to make sure that we're doing everything that we can to put ourselves in the best position to A, keep our jobs and careers whenever it's time for these companies to take a look at who they're going to lay off, and B, understanding what the new technology is, how it works, so we could apply it and be able to get hired somewhere else. All right, so we talked about the things that we can do defensively. Let's flip to offense now. It's time to get on offense, because even though the job market and the economy may be questionable right now, that still doesn't stop us from being able to move forward and progress. And the very first thing that we're going to do offensively, and this is what I'm doing, guys, I'm not going to tell you to do anything that I wouldn't do myself, is we need to be aggressively investing in the market. Look, when the market is going up, everybody wants to buy. The price is great. Nobody questions anything. But when that price is pulling back in the stock market, then all of a sudden we're hesitant to buy the things that we were buying on the way up. And I said this in the past, especially in some coaching sessions. If you like a stock at $100, then you should really love it at $50. What's the difference? It's the psychology of it going up versus going down. And that was one of the biggest switches that I had to flip when I started investing and understanding finances. Is why are we so quick to buy things when they're on the increase, but we're hesitant to buy them when they're on the decline? I don't know. From a psychological perspective, I'm still trying to figure that out. I've said this before and I'll say it again. When there's blood in the street, meaning the market is red, then it's time to eat, which means we're going to go out and we're going to aggressively invest in the market. We're going to hold for the long term, wait for the market to recover, and then we're going to take our profits once that happens. So that's the first offensive strategy that we're going to be taking a look at. And to be honest with you, I missed this in 2008, 2009. I wasn't aware of investing at that point in time, but there were so many people that got rich during that time. It happened again in, I want to say 2014. I'm going off of memory here. Again, I had just started investing. I didn't really understand it. And then right around COVID, we had a really small sell-off window, and I hesitated and missed my window. And a lot of people made so much money on that market pullback. I don't know how long this pullback is going to last, but I'm not hesitating and sitting on the sidelines this time. I'm actively investing, and whenever the market returns and recovers, because it will, I'm gonna reap those benefits and I'm gonna take my profits. And then the second offensive strategy that we're gonna employ, and you should be doing this regardless what the job market does or what the economy looks like. We are not gonna be solely depending on our 9-to-5 income. This is the perfect opportunity, the perfect excuse for so many people to get out there and get that second income. The second income doesn't have to be a large amount of money. It needs to be enough money to supplement your 9-to-5, because you have to remember, if you become a casualty of this job market and you only have one stream of income, you're gonna be really suffering. So even if you're only bringing in $500 or $600 at your second and third income streams, that's gonna be much better than the person that has zero. Now, there's a lot of different things that you could be doing. A few things that I did when I first moved to North Carolina, I got my real estate license. I sold houses for a while. I'm no longer really interested in doing that. However, I still refer buyers and sellers to agents that I know. So that's still a second stream of income. Third stream of income is this YouTube channel. Many of you guys have joined my journey along the way, where I'm documenting my process and my path to building wealth, and a lot of you have joined me along the way. The third stream of income are the investments that I own in my brokerage account. So I do have investments that pay out a dividend, and that is an additional stream of income. And then I'm currently working on income stream 4 and 5, which I hope will be live at some point in 2026. Look, the point I'm trying to make is that when you rely on one single stream of income and anything happens that interrupts that, that puts you in a very bad position financially that you don't want to be in. Look, the economy is changing, and there's nothing that we can do to prevent the progress that's being made on the technology side of things. However, there are things that we can do to prepare ourselves. We talked about 3 defensive strategies and 2 offensive strategies that we can employ right now to make sure that we're putting ourselves in the best possible position with anything that can happen with our current job or career. There are so many people that have either lost their job or they're in fear of losing their job. And we want to make sure that whatever happens, we're not putting ourselves in a position to where we're going to suffer financially just by relying on that one stream of income. We're going to have a defensive strategy and an offensive strategy to make sure that we can always put ourselves in the best possible situation. So what do you guys think? Leave a comment down below. Let me know, what are some offensive and defensive strategies that you would have added to this video? Would love to hear from you guys. Leave a comment down below and let me know.